9. After I dared at last to leave the convent, it was as if I had arrived at a place where I had no connections. Having sheltered within the safety of the convent, eating at regular meal times, and living a life with every comfort, I am now in the position of having to endure the hardships of being alone in the outside world, and of having to seek work, and even food and drink for myself. I feel afraid of everyone and of everything. I feel awkward and strange about going anywhere. The task of finding a job seems monstrously difficult. I can only attempt to do that by looking through the papers and answering job advertisements. Have I the means to bribe my way into a job? Nor do I have anyone who can use their influence on my behalf. I got an interview at one place, after I answered an advertisement in a newspaper. I went. After I had answered 1,001 questions, and even written an exam, I was told that the job would fetch me a salary of 400 rupees a month. At today's prices, in which corner of the world can you survive on 400 rupees? In any case, I didn't get that job. Why? Because I am a Dalit. It was a school that is governed and run by Nadar. It seems they only appoint Nadar women. I don't know why in that case, they make such a fuss about the interview, and invite us all to apply. If they had made it plain in the paper that the job was available only to Nadars, why would I have gone for it? So it seems that Nadar schools only admit Nadars and Nikar schools only admit Nikars. And then, Iyer schools will only teach Iyer children. If it is all like this, then heaven knows where all the Dalit children can go and break their heads. I don't know if there is such a thing as a Dalit school. Then, if Dalits accept that nobody else will take any notice of them, and ask for admission in the schools run by Catholic nuns and priests, they are told that if they take Dalit children, their standards will fall. They marginalize all of us Dalits as being of poor quality. Amongst all this, it is a real dilemma where and how I can find a job and survive. I grow older all the time. Can one sit at home, unemployed, uselessly eating one's meals? Perhaps it might just be possible, so long as one's parents are alive. After their time, what is there of one's own? Who? My siblings have their own lives to lead. And for how long can even close friends help out? If it is so difficult even to find a means of living, there is also another great difficulty, the difficulty I find in moving about in the outside world alone. If a woman so much as stands alone and by herself somewhere, all sorts of men gather towards her showing their teeth. However angry you get, however repelled by their expressions and their grimaces, even to the point of retching, what can you do on your own? We think so many thoughts. We hope so much. We study so many things. But in real life everything turns out differently. We are compelled to wander about, stricken and unprotected. It is really very hard to return to a life in this world after 7 or 8 years of hiding away from reality. You can sit on your chair inside a convent and say whatever you like about the struggling masses, about justice and the law. You can pray for the good of this group or that, while continuing to live in comfort. But in that place you can never experience other people's pain. But now, here, I do experience it. Today I do know what it is to be hungry, to suffer illness in solitude, to stand and stare without a paisa in one's hand, to walk along the street without protection, to be embarrassed by a lack of appropriate clothes, to be orphaned and entirely alone, to swim against the tide in this life without position or status or money or authority. But I have never once regretted that I left the convent with all its comforts and conveniences. In any case, that was for me a counterfeit existence. Always, all the time, I had to assume a false position in front of others. And how is it possible to wear a disguise all 24 hours? When I was in the convent, it always seemed to me that we were alienated from ordinary people, and that ordinary people had become foreigners to us. And this was because we had a number of elitist attributes such as status, money, and a comfortable life, and so they never could be close to us. But now that I have nothing of my own, and because I am exactly like them, they are able to talk to me in a much more familiar way. And I can behave towards them in a perfectly normal manner. I don't know what kind of magic it is that they work upon us in the convent, but during these 7 or 8 years, my brain has become confused and dulled. In some ways, they actually change you into a different person. It was this change that seemed to hinder me from being able to live again. By being told all the time to repress this and renounce that thought, to act like this, to be like this, eventually we become strangers even to ourselves. Because I had been caged within that special world, it was difficult, when I came outside, to find a way of dealing with the energy of the real world. The strategy of the convent had been to transform my character completely. At the time that I entered the convent, I was like the strong core of a teak tree. Both in mind and in body, I was as firm and steadfast as that. But when I came out, I had lost all my strength, and was as feeble as a murunga tree that blows over in the wind. It was only after I entered the convent that I fell prey to every illness and disease. My mind too had been buffeted and knocked about, so that I was only living a half-life or a quarter life. In such a diminished state, how could I be of service? I don't know by whose grace or blessing it was, but I did come to my senses. I came out into the world. And although it is so hard to make a living, yet I am truly happy to live with a whole and honest mind. I feel a certain contentment in leading an ordinary life among ordinary people. I can breathe once again, independently and at ease, like a fish that has at last returned to the water, after having been flung outside and suffered distress. I have entirely lost faith in all that talk of service to the poor from within the convent. It is possible to live in elitist style with money, education, authority and power, and to claim that one is serving the poor. But what kind of service is it that is done without humanity? Now many thoughts come crowding to me. I am like a bird whose wings were broken. After its wings have been broken, it is protected only if it stays within its cage. But if it comes out, it can only flap its wings uselessly, unable to fly. And that is the state in which I am now. With all their words and rules in the convent, they cut me down, sculpted me, damaged me. Today I blunder and stumble about in the world outside. Most of all, it hurts me that I should be doing this at my age. I don't know when my wings will heal and gain enough strength so that I too will be able to fly again. Just as people throw sticks and stones to wound a wingless bird, many people have wounded me with their words and deeds. Yet I know I'm moving forward slowly, step by step. Those people who stuck with me in my prosperous days have torn themselves away and gone. A few who heard of my present distress have come to me on the pretext of wishing to help and heal, but have merely stirred the wound, they too have left. Yet with all the pain, there still is a certain happiness in the depths of my mind. I have courage, I have a certain pride. I do indeed have a belief that I can live, a desire that I should live. For the time being, I cannot see my way ahead. Yet I believe it is possible to live a meaningful life, a life that is useful to a few others. I comfort myself with the thought that rather than live with a fraudulent smile, it is better to lead a life weeping real tears. Afterward. Almost 7 years after I wrote Karruku, I have read it now, in English translation. The emotions that I had felt during its writing rose up once again, in a great flood. And I could not help but reflect upon many changes that have taken place since then, the turning points in my life during these past 7 years, many startling events, sorrows, achievements, my perspectives about my own life and about society. In 1995, my beloved younger sister met a violent death. Within the very next year, both my parents died, one after the other. Because I live by myself in this society, without supports of my own such as a family, a husband and children, I have to face many problems. But even though there are 1,000 difficulties which beset a Dalit woman living on her own, yet the truth is that in my position as an independent woman, there are many opportunities for me to spend my life usefully, and especially to work for the liberation of Dalits. This fact is both a consolation and an encouragement to me. It is for this reason that the urge grows the greater day by day that I should carry quietly in my heart all the sorrows that followed one upon the other, and to live a life that has meaning and dedication. Each day brings new wounds but also new understanding, new lessons that experience teaches, sufficient mental strength to rise up even from the edge of defeat. I have seen the brutal, frenzied and ugly face of society and been enraged by it. But at the same time, I have danced with joy because of the sweetness and simplicity of a life that is in touch with nature. Even though I have walked hand in hand with anxieties, I have also recognized a strength and zest within myself, flowing like a forest stream, and this has refreshed me. So there have been many healthy contradictions in my life. I have met several people who work with zeal for the single objective of Dalit liberation. And it has been a great joy to see Dalits aiming to live with self-respect, proclaiming aloud, Dalit Endra Salada, Talai Namurndin Alada, say you are a Dalit, lift up your head, and stand tall. To see them joining ranks in order to gain political, economic and cultural strength. To see a fighting spirit gaining ground among people who have been accustomed, throughout the years, to being beaten down. To see them resisting those who have attacked them in an unjust and inhuman way for so long. At the same time, I have also been crushed by the growing violence, cruelties and repressive measures directed towards Dalits in recent times. Beyond all this there stands firm a fierce anger that wants to break down everything that obstructs the creation of an equal and just society, and an unshakable belief in that goal. I have met many friends during the course of my life's journey. They have shared my sorrows and helped me in all things. They have inspired me to engage in my work with close attention, with an awareness of my responsibility, and an understanding of the community's needs. They have helped me to identify my own strengths, and made me put them to use. Many Dalit women, for whom toil is their very life breath, who lead vigorous lives in spite of all their weariness and anxieties, have been a great inspiration as well as a constant help to me. I have been restored by the love, friendship, support and advice of all these people, and enabled to live with fresh courage and resolution. My love and thanks go to Mrs. Minnie Krishnan, editor of Macmillan and of this series, who was keen to publish Karruku in English translation, and who made every effort to bring it about, and to Mrs. Lakshmi Holmstrom who has translated Karruku into English without once diminishing its pungency. Bama 2000. Glossary.